They called it Halora 3, a backwater Class 4 agricultural colony orbiting a dull red dwarf in the Rim territories. Its primary exports were grain, water-rich tubers, and a particularly potent strain of yeast favored in galactic brewing circles. For centuries, it sat unnoticed by the greater powers, occupied by a quiet, efficient species called the Yethari. Tall, furred, herbivorous beings with 4 hands and 6 eyes. They were pacifists by culture and farmers by trade. They paid their taxes, kept to themselves, and survived the endless churn of galactic politics by being useful and boring. That changed when the Dravari came. The Dravari Empire was a war-born machine, an amalgam of hive-minded insectoids, all cold logic and precise destruction. They swept across the Rim with brutal efficiency, annexing planets with minimal resistance, imposing order through violence. Their scouts came across Halora, 3 during a sweep of the Rim, and marked it as unclaimed despite the presence of the Yethari. The Dravari didn't recognize non-military species as having sovereignty. The Yethari protested. The Dravari ignored them. Then one of the Yethari said something that caught attention. "You must consult with the humans." That single phrase stalled the annexation. The Dravari envoy, a towering creature of clicking chitin and buzzing mandibles, tilted its head and replied in the trade tongue. "Explain." "What humans?" The Yethari, confused by the question, replied, "The ones who live here. They arrived a decade ago. They help with the heavy farming. They don't like being disturbed." "A subservient caste?" asked the Dravari. "Labor species?" The Yethari's ears twitched in unease. "We don't assign castes. They came voluntarily. We gave them land. They gave us machines. They trade fairly. They keep to themselves." This triggered an alert back to the Dravari command vessel. The name human appeared in archives, cross-referenced with cautionary markers. Sparse data. Highly unpredictable. Potential death world origin. Unconfirmed. Dangerous. The Dravari commander, General Ninethalin, dismissed the alert. What could a few scattered settlers do? The Dravari landed a full invasion contingent, 13,000 soldiers, 500 mechanized units, orbital gunships, suppression drones. They deployed in concentric zones around the largest settlement, a dome-shaped farming commune with solar towers and tractor fields. The Yethari, ever polite, met them at the perimeter. The humans did not. A Yethari elder tried again. "Please, speak with the humans. They will not like this." The Dravari colonel sneered. "If they resist, they will be eliminated." At precisely 9 o'clock local time, the Dravari began their forward march. At 9:04, the sky changed color. Not the cloud cover. The sky, a pulse, soft and blue, like a heartbeat, spread outward from the commune center. Dravari sensors scrambled. Communications failed. Their drones fell out of the air. Gunships lost navigational control and plummeted in spirals of flame. At 9:05, something emerged from the commune, a biped in black and gray armor that shimmered like heat on metal. It walked slowly, deliberately, unarmed. The Dravari opened fire. The weapons discharged. Then nothing. Not a spark. Not a scorch. Not a tremor. The energy vanished midair. The biped paused, lifted a hand, and pointed at the front ranks. At 9:06, 400 Dravari soldiers dropped dead simultaneously. No marks. No struggle. Just dead. At 9:07, the rest of the army began to flee. General Ninethalin barked orders from orbit to hold the line. His command ship rotated toward the planet, prepared to deploy orbital fire. At 9:08, the command ship lost power. A soft voice whispered in the crew's ears, impossibly, as if spoken from inside their minds. "This is your one and only warning." At 9:09, the human walked alone to the center of the battlefield, stepped over dead Dravari, and stood still. Behind it, others emerged. Not many, just 6, some in armor, some in light clothes. All calm, all watching. The lead human removed their helmet. A woman, mid-30s, dark eyes, quiet anger. She said nothing, just looked upward. At 9:10, Every Dravari vessel within orbit exploded simultaneously. No streaks of light. No missiles. Just gone. Silent, efficient, surgical annihilation. The remaining Dravari soldiers, those still on the planet, dropped their weapons and fell to ground, some praying, others crying. The Yethari watched in silence. At 9/11, it was over. War, from first shot to final breath, had lasted 9 minutes. The humans returned to their commune. The fields resumed their automated tilling. Solar towers continued humming. Crops drank in the morning sun. The Yethari resumed their planting. The Dravari survivors were escorted to a remote hilltop, fed, and handed messages. Tell your kind what happened here. Never return. Word spread fast. Halora. 3 was no longer considered a farming colony. The Rim territories, once viewed as ripe for conquest, were declared off-limits by unspoken consensus. The Galactic Conclave convened an emergency session. The human question, once theoretical, became central. Who were they? What had they become? Humanity had once been part of the Conclave, a junior species, brash and energetic. But something had changed. Centuries ago, they withdrew from the galactic stage. No declaration. No war. Just silence. Some believed they went extinct. Others whispered they descended, transcended biology, or moved to a parallel dimension. The truth was simpler. They got tired of the politics. Tired of being feared. So they left, but not entirely. Small groups settled on outposts like Halora 3. They didn't dominate. They helped. They planted. They waited. And when needed, they ended wars in 9 minutes. The Dravari never returned. In fact, they altered their expansion paths entirely, steering clear of any planet rumored to have even one human inhabitant. Mercenaries refused contracts involving humans. Black markets were flooded with fake human DNA that no one dared test. The galaxy changed. No longer certain who was prey and who was predator. On Halora 3, the Yethari never spoke of the war again. They built a memorial stone with no names, just a date. The humans never explained what they did. When asked, the woman who led the defense simply replied, "That wasn't war. That was a warning." One Yethari child once asked her, "Why didn't you destroy them all?" She looked toward the stars. "Because we used to be like them." The child didn't understand. Not then, but the lesson echoed. Somewhere in the vast, starlit dark, humans still wandered. They weren't conquerors. They weren't saviors. They were reminders that behind the quiet fields, the simple farms, and the long silences waited a species no one dare provoke twice.